just tell you a little history about esports. The first esports event happened way back in October 1972 at Stanford University, where students competed in a video game of Space War. True, I'm not sure if you remember this or not. The grand prize for the winner was a year-long subscription to Rolling Stones magazine. Moving forward to 1980, the first video game Space Invaders competition was held, and it had 10,000 participants. And then in the 1990s, the internet connected players through the web, which officially started online play. And Nintendo and Blockbuster decided to sponsor these events and started to sponsor the Video Game World Championships.
Good.
Oh, hey. Did y'all know that in 1997, the Quake game, the Red Annihilation Tournament, drew in about 2,000 fans, 2,000 participants, and the actual grand prize was a Ferrari that the character drove inside the game. The total prize money for that year was $15,000 throughout the whole year. And jumping to 2017, the total prize money are about $116 million. So you can see the big difference between 20 years to make.
How's it going? So today we'll be going through the flow of esports as well as the overall structure of the organizations in esports. So first, the way esports works, you're going to have teams like Optic Gaming, Evil Geniuses, and they play games, League of Legends, Call of Duty, Fortnite, tons of games, and they play in specific leagues like the MLG, Major League Gaming. Then people are able to watch them on platforms such as Twitch, and all these fans are activated through many different ways, including Twitch, merchandise, YouTube, and even live TV. So in dealing with the structure of esports organizations, there's two different types of organizations. First, there's one that's team focused, where they put more focus on the actual esports team and competing. It's similar to a professional sports team, where their main focus is not on delivering content. Some examples of this are Team Envy, Team Luminosity, as well as Cloud9 Gaming. And on the other hand, the other type of organization in esports is a more content-focused team or organization, where they focus on delivering content daily from their athletes and their talent. So they use platforms such as YouTube, Twitch, all the social medias, and some of these big sport organizations are definitely the most well-known, like FaZe Clan, Optic Gaming, as well as Team Liquid.
Esports is here to stay, whether you like it or not, mainly in part due to its giant surge in viewership and revenue. In 2012, esports only generated $130 million. By 2020, it's estimated that esports is going to push for about $2 billion. This is in large part due to the events that these teams are putting on. Events attract over 10,000 people with over 15 million people watching over stream. Yeah.
These are just some of the big games that are ruled basically by the esports community. And the first one's obviously gonna be Fortnite. Dota 2, which I never really heard of the game, but it was ruling the esports community for 2 or 3 years straight until Fortnite came in. You can see it made almost $20 million more than Dota did in 1 year. They took over the reins that fast. And then Counter-Strike makes $16 million at number 3. But all these funds come from basically big tournaments they do, which basically everybody should know Fortnite's the number 1 because they could probably sell out the Dallas Mavericks stadium if they really wanted to.
Oh, hello. I'm talking about esports merchandising. Merchandising is a great form of revenue for esports. In fact, it produces almost a good percent of their revenue. This is because as teams travel and leagues travel, they're able to sell their merchandise to a variety of fans in different spaces. And because of the way these structured esports, this is ever changing. So if we have a league or a team that goes to a different city, say like Dallas, they can easily sell their merchandise for a team or league in the actual venue itself. But there is a problem with that. There is no brick and mortar stores where they can actually sell their physical merchandising. One thing that esports does do very well is the fact that they can actually sell the products to their players, and they can actually sell their faces of the other players and actually still do a good job. This is also due because of the characteristics of the players and their personal connections of the people that are connected with these players. People like Ninja do very well with merchandising because they have a great connection with their fan base, because it's all done through digitally. Most recently, Overwatch League has had a great deal with Fanatics. This is the first deal of its kind. Fanatics is a great online distributor of multiple sports teams and different logos of a variety of different leagues and organizations. E-gaming sports of Overwatch has actually had a great deal with this, and there's no actual number of what they're getting paid. It'll be the first time in which an online broker will actually sell, or an online distributor will actually sell merchandise for esports. You could see other teams do this in the future. We'll see.
The first esports arena opened in 2017 in China, and since then they've been popping up all over the place. Marketers are looking for either renovated space or building brand new stadiums. A lot of the major stadiums are in California, Texas, Hawaii, Chicago, and New York. There's currently a major $60 million stadium being built in Philadelphia. All these stadiums are state-of-the-art, equipped with Wi-Fi, lights, cameras, many playing stations for people to play while they're watching these other people play their game.
Sports betting. We all do it. We all think ourselves like Kenny Rogers, but what do we actually know about esports betting? Many people actually do not know much about esports betting because it's such a new concept. Initially, esports betting was considered more or less a black market of sorts. It first became popular with CSGO, Counter-Strike Global Offensive, when people actually use skins of their guns during the game and bet on them during matches, in which players would get rare skins and considered have cash value to it. It's just since had a different approach ever since esports gambling has become legal, since the United States federally allowed it in 2012. Since 2012, many different organizations and sports books have allowed esports betting to be legal, but it depends state to state on the classification of sports, if states consider esports an actual competitive sport, like many people don't consider it as, or if the state itself allows for gambling. In the states that do allow gambling and consider it a competitive sport, it's actually very profitable for sports books. There's many good odds on these games, and actually a lot of people end up actually betting on it. This could be a very profitable instance in the future if every state actually legalizes gambling and every state allows for this sport to be considered a competitive sport. In the future, esports gambling can become a huge industry, much like the NBA does. It could be sort of sponsorships or even sort of partnerships with these gambling websites like Bovada or BetOnline. Who knows? The industry could be changing rapidly in the future.
Some of the biggest impact that goes wrong along with esports are like the amount of people they have that like play them. Like Fortnite has over 2,300 players that just play like professionally, and that's not even counting like the number of people they have that just play for fun. Like Dota 2, they have about 1,300, Counter-Strike 3,300 players that play pro, and that's not counting like the people that play just for fun. And another big impact that's going on is colleges. There's over 200 colleges that have like gaming teams, and like they're able to recruit people just for gaming, which really wasn't ever heard of. And also in junior college, there's also there's a junior college championship for gaming teams.
Despite many's optimistic hopes about the future of esports, we've identified 3 key problems with the industry. The first one is tough barrier to entry when it comes to viewing. If you don't play the game and you don't play it often, it's going to be really hard to understand what's going on. It's really fast paced and there's a lot of strategy involved. So it's going to be a little tougher for a fan to enter into a game. Moving on, over time people lose interest in video games. As a personal video game player myself, always within a year I'm going to lose interest with games. That being said, game producers have been able to, like Call of Duty, they release a new game every year to keep players interested. For Fortnite, they're always adding new seasons and updates to keep people interested. And then lastly, I think the biggest issue that esports will face is that as of now, streamers and everyone playing the game and making profit off these video games don't have to pay a single cent to the actual game producer. I think down the line, as streaming rights go up, eventually players will start having to pay a copyright fee to the game producers.